Oh, you joined me. Hold on a sec. Let me get the light. There we go. Yes, I was just sitting here in the dark, waiting. Not creepy at all. Glad you made it. Take a few seconds to get comfy and maybe grab your favorite John Stamos body pillow and assume the big spoon position. How about we put a little burning fireplace in that bottom right corner for some ambient noise? Fireplace, please. Guys, the fireplace. There it is, splendid. Hard to find good help these days. Wait, that is much too large. Smaller, please, and in the corner. Good. Now how about some embers? Embers, please. Very good. Looks like we are all set for this monumental journey now. But first, if you would not mind liking and subscribing. It really helps us out more than you know. And drop a comment on what country you reside in, as we are always curious on where our viewers are from. Now, let's begin. Let's set the scene. You're not in a modern pub with craft cocktails and gluten-free snacks. You're in a medieval village where the air smells like wet goat and burnt onions, and your best hope for refreshment is a building that's technically standing, but only thanks to spite and ale stains. You've been walking all day through mud that doubles as a town square. Your boots, if you even have boots, squish like two miserable loaves of bread. The sun's going down. You're hungry, and your feet feel like they've declared independence from the rest of your body. What you need isn't food. What you need is a tavern. But how do you even find one? There are no neon signs, no Yelp reviews, and definitely no Tavern This Way app. Somewhere past the fishmonger, with surprisingly aggressive eels and the forge that's definitely on fire in ways it shouldn't be, there's a noise, a mix of singing, shouting, and a distant scream that might be laughter, might not be. You push open the heavy door and it groans in protest like it's auditioning for a horror story. Instantly, you're hit with a wall of heat, smoke, and smells that range from, not bad, to please never again. It's a stew of damp wool, old beer, wet dog, burning peat, and something meaty that might be food or might be regret. Either way, you're in. Inside, the ceiling is so low even short people have to duck. The floor is packed dirt sprinkled with straw, which is medieval for carpet we never clean. There are no private booths, no cozy corners, just long, uneven benches and tables scarred by knives, fire, and decisions people deeply regret. The lighting, candles, and one fireplace that seems to double as the only heating, cooking, and accidental cremation source in the building. You find a spot at a table that's sticky in ways you don't ask about and settle in. A man nearby is yelling about pigs. A woman is singing to a cup. A child under the table is either playing or unconscious. It's a gamble. There's a dog gnawing a bone the size of your forearm, and he's definitely growling at you. That's fine. You weren't using that ankle anyway. You're seated. The table wobbles like it's trying to escape responsibility. Your back's to the wall because that's what survivors do, and someone across from you is staring at you like they either want to be your best friend or challenge you to a duel. Welcome. You've entered the drinks portion of tonight's experience. Let's call it what it is. Hydration through fear. Now let's be clear, water in a medieval town was usually less refreshing spring and more liquid roulette. Rivers doubled as bathhouses, laundromats and toilets. So locals turned to ale. It wasn't just about getting tipsy, it was about not dying. Even children drank the stuff. Small beer, they called it, low alcohol. Enough to be safer than swampy well water. Cheers, kids. Your choices at the tavern are limited. There's ale and more ale. Possibly some cider if apples happened that year. Mead if someone raided a beehive without dying. Wine, only if you're in southern Europe or if someone noble tripped and spilled some. Otherwise, wine tastes like vinegar got bored and quit halfway through fermenting. Let's talk ale. Forget carbonation. Forget chilled mugs. What you're getting is cloudy, lukewarm, flat, and has mysterious floating bits. Is that barley, yeast, a splinter, a tooth? Nobody knows. No one dares ask. You drink it anyway. That's the rule. The ale is brewed in barrels that look older than logic and possibly share space with the dog that guards the firewood. The flavour profile ranges from swampy bread to burnt oatmeal sadness. The good news? It'll dull the pain in your legs. The bad news? It'll replace it with the pain of intestinal mystery. Now, mead. Mead sounds fancy. It's honey wine, royal, right? Not quite. In practice, it's sweet, syrupy, and capable of turning a shy monk into a loud dancer. It's either glorious or a sticky mess that tastes like someone melted a beehive into cough syrup. If you spot a mug of cider, grab it, but only if you're brave. Good cider is tangy and sharp. Bad cider is sour and chunky and might be older than the tavern's roof. Same with the mugs. They're made of wood, clay, or pewter, and if you're lucky, they've been rinsed this month. Don't expect glassware. Don't expect options. Don't even expect your mug to be entirely leak-free. You're not here for a tasting flight. You're here to forget how cold your feet are and maybe who you owe rent to. You raise your mug and sip. It's warm. It's weird. And somehow, it's exactly what you needed. And now the tavern begins to hum. Not literally, though with the amount of buzzing, something's probably alive in the rafters. The crowd loosens, voices rise, people laugh. The man who stared at you earlier lifts his mug and yells something about turnips. You have no idea what he said, but you toast back. Because now you're part of it. Whatever it is. The drinks are flowing. The room is louder, warmer, slightly blurrier. Your stomach growls like a small, angry dog. Time for dinner. Well, dinner might be a strong word. Let's call it what it really is. Survival stew. In a medieval tavern, there is no menu, no specials board, no cute server asking if you have allergies. You ask, what's hot? And brace for impact. Most nights, the answer is pottage. Pottage is not a dish. Pottage is a concept. It's a never-ending stew that lives in a giant pot over the fire, where ingredients go in, but they never truly come out. It's Thursday. The base of this pot dates back to Monday, or last week, or the Crusades. Every day they just keep adding to it. Lentils, sure. Carrots, why not? Old bread, toss it in. Mystery meat, absolutely. Eyebrows are raised, questions are not asked. Bread is also an option, sort of. It's brown, hard, and doubles as a weapon. If the bread is soft, it was baked today. If it's hard, it was baked during the last full moon. Either way, it soaks up ale and expectations. There's cheese too. It smells like regret and has visible opinions about being eaten. Sometimes you'll see pickled eggs, dried fish, or something called a special, which is just tavern speak for this is going bad soon, eat it fast. You dive into your bowl, it's thick, it's hot, it's kind of sour. Doesn't matter, you're starving, you chew, you wince, you survive. And somehow the taste starts to make sense. Maybe it's the ale, maybe it's the fire, maybe it's the collective delusion that happens when 20 people are eating the same suspicious goop and pretending it's fine, a kind of stew-based group therapy. Around you, the tavern is alive. A man with one tooth is singing. Another is asleep in his bowl. A chicken walks across a table. You don't know where it came from. No one does. That's just dinner and entertainment all rolled into one. It's fine. You're used to it now. Prepare yourself for bards, barmaids, liars, lovers, and that guy who definitely just stole your spoon. Across from you, a hooded stranger, face half hidden, nursing a drink like it owes him money. He hasn't blinked in 10 minutes. Could be a runaway monk, could be a mercenary, could be just really socially awkward. Either way, don't ask questions, just nod respectfully and avoid eye contact. Near the hearth sits a man in dented armor with stories leaking out of him like his last head injury. He's telling tales of dragons, damsels, and battles won with only a spoon. None of it's true. His accent changes halfway through, but he's loud, entertaining, and bleeding slightly. So it's working. The barmaid breezes by, balancing 5 mugs and an attitude that could curdle milk. She's fast, sharp-eyed, and utterly unimpressed by everyone. She's seen it all: fights, flirts, vomit, marriages. She delivers drinks with one hand and slaps hands with the other. You don't mess with her unless you want your nose relocated. There's also a man sleeping under a table, using a chicken as a pillow. This is not an exaggeration. No one is alarmed. The chicken looks comfortable. The tavern is loud, smelly, and full of stories, none of them verified, all of them performed. This is how news travels. This is social networking, medieval style. You listen, you laugh, you lean closer, and somehow you're in the story now, whether it's true or not. And then there's silence, not complete, just a lull. A rare moment when everyone stops talking at once. The whole room exhales, and just as quickly, someone lets out a heroic fart, and the moment shatters like a dropped mug. Once the ale is flowing and the stew has vaguely settled, it's game time. Not board games. Not chess. We're talking the medieval tavern version of Vegas, minus the lights, rules, and sanitation. Then someone flips the table. Then the tavern keeper steps in and yells, and everyone pretends to behave while still flexing under the table, because nothing says masculinity like elbow bruises and broken mugs. In a darker corner, a card game is underway. The cards are thick, worn, probably missing, and possibly homemade. The rules shift mid-game. 1 minute you're matching symbols, the next you're just yelling numbers and hoping it works. Someone bets a tooth, someone else raises with a spoon. This is normal. Side bets pop up too. Who can drink the most without falling over? Who can throw a crust of bread into the stew pot from across the room? Who can insult the bard loud enough to cause a musical meltdown? Bonus points if he cries. The games aren't just for fun. They're for honor, reputation, and drunken bragging rights. Winning makes you a legend for about an hour. Losing means mockery, a soggy sleeve, or possibly sleeping with your head in a soup bowl. Still worth it. The tavern keeper keeps an eye on it all, letting chaos reign until someone draws a knife. That's the line. No steel at the table. You want to fight? Use fists, mugs, or your forehead like a gentleman. You wisely stick to watching for now, but eventually someone slaps down a bone die in front of you, raises an eyebrow, and mutters something that sounds like a challenge. Coming next, what happens when the games go too far and the furniture starts flying? It was bound to happen. Maybe someone lost too many coins. Maybe someone flirted with the wrong barmaid. Maybe someone insulted a man's honor or his goat. Regardless of the cause, you can feel the tension snap. The room shifts, ale sloshes, a mug slams down, someone yells, "Hold my bread!" And it begins. Welcome to the medieval tavern brawl. The fights are not clean, they're sloppy, loud and occasionally poetic. People trip over benches, tankards are wielded like clubs, cloaks are used like nets. One guy attempts to swing a sausage like a flail. It does not work. The tavern keeper wades into the fray like an angry deity in an apron. Armed with a wooden spoon the size of a leg, they roar commands and slap sense into anyone within reach. They're not trying to stop the fight, they're trying to steer it away from the valuable barrels. Priorities. Amid the madness, a man is still calmly sipping his drink, ducking only when chairs fly too close. He's seen it all before, possibly started the last one, possibly his chair that's now kindling. Either way, he's got front row seats to tonight's dinner theatre. Somewhere someone shouts, "To the pig pen!" And 3 people vanish out the door, possibly to continue the fight or start a new one involving actual pigs. Not every brawl ends in bruises. Sometimes someone lands a punch and realizes too late they hit their brother. Sometimes a well-aimed loaf of bread ends the entire thing with a comedic thunk. And sometimes, only sometimes, someone wins by falling over so hard the floor gives up. Eventually the energy burns out. Someone is singing. Someone else is on a table that used to be upright. One guy is asleep in a barrel. The rest are panting, grinning, and missing a shoe. A silence settles. The tavern breathes again. No one calls the guards. No one files a complaint. This is normal. You get up, shake the dust off, and look around. If your mug isn't broken and your nose is still roughly centered, you've done well. But tonight's not over. In fact, now it gets weirder. Because nothing follows a good tavern brawl like the strange and glorious chaos of medieval romance. The brawl has ended again. The air is thick with smoke, sweat, and the unholy aroma of spilled ale, body odour, burnt stew, and maybe just a hint of regret. The hearth crackles with disinterest. A lute twangs with only 3 strings. Someone coughs loudly. And for one long, confused moment, there is peace. But then, like an unexpected second course after a questionable feast, romance. Welcome to medieval flirting, a time-honoured tradition full of bold gestures, terrible metaphors, and approximately 0 shame. Where dignity comes to die and love sometimes follows behind it, hobbling on one shoe. It starts slowly, like a rash you don't want to admit to. A woman wipes stew off a man's cheek with the sleeve of his own tunic. He takes it as a sign. "My lady," he slurs, "your eyes shine like oiled armor at dawn." She replies with a deadpan look and a spoonful of stew to his face. The room laughs. He bows anyway. Dignity optional. Elsewhere, a wiry farmer tries to impress a barmaid by juggling pickles. He makes it to 2.5 before slipping on a sausage and knocking over an entire table. The barmaid claps. Is it love? Maybe. Or maybe she just enjoys chaos. At a nearby bench, a young lad with too much cologne, goat musk, and not enough sense pulls out a piece of parchment. It's a poem. It rhymes heart with fart. He calls it his masterpiece. The woman he reads it to bursts into such wild laughter that 2 others fall in love with her immediately. She now has options. Romance in the medieval tavern doesn't follow rules. It follows impulses and poor judgment. A blacksmith, muscles glistening with soot and ale, leans into a conversation with a scribe. "Ever been kissed by someone who can bend iron?" he asks. "Ever been rejected by someone who can read?" she counters, sipping wine and not looking up. He blushes. She smirks. A second later, they're sharing bread. It's unclear who won, but both seem pleased. Nearby, a man boasts about owning not just goats, but named goats. "Buttercup and Lady Cluck," he declares proudly. "Lady Cluck is a chicken," his companion corrects. "It's aspirational," he insists. Everywhere you turn, something romantic or ridiculous is unfolding. One couple attempts to dance. There's no music, they hum. She leads, he trips. They fall into a barrel. They do not get out. A curtain is drawn around them using someone's cloak and a broom. Privacy medieval style. In the far corner, a group of friends tries to coach their most awkward companion into speaking to a woman. He finally approaches, clears his throat and says, "Greetings, fair creature." The woman blinks. "Did you just call me a creature?" she asks. He panics and adds, "A divine one?" She eyes him, then offers him a seat. He sits on a lit candle. She giggles. He winces, and somehow it begins. Not all attempts are gentle. A knight with one eyebrow and no indoor voice roars across the room. "I love you, milady!" The recipient of his affection is, unfortunately, the tavern keeper's daughter. She responds by flipping a tankard directly into his mouth. He considers this progress. Jealousy simmers like bad soup on a low fire. A bard recently rejected watches with narrowed eyes as his object of affection laughs with a new suitor. He strums his lute bitterly. The tune is "Love is a battlefield," but slower and sadder. He whispers, "This song is cursed," then plays it again. 3 tankards break in response. In one booth, a cloaked figure flirts with shadowy mystery. "I am a spy," he tells a wide-eyed milkmaid. "I deal in secrets and seduction." He's promptly outed by his cousin, who shouts from across the room, "You sell worms at the market, Darrell." The milkmaid nods. "I do like worms," she says. And somehow they too become a couple. There's a trio of dwarves placing bets on who will kiss who first. One holds a ledger. One holds a ladle as a scepter of judgment. The third just eats pickled eggs and says, "I believe in true love." A woman in golden robes draws attention wherever she walks. Not because of her beauty, though she is striking, but because she carries a falcon on her shoulder that shrieks every time someone lies. She's approached by 5 men. 4 flee after the falcon screams. The 5th? He tells no lies. They walk off arm in arm, falcon still judging. Elsewhere, someone shouts, "I will serenade you with the song of my people." He then blows into a mug and makes a noise like a wounded goose. The woman applauds. They are married within the hour, or drunk, possibly both. 2 people, 1 goat, many memories. He insists it was a gift of eternal affection. She insists it died choking on his sock. He claims that was a different goat. She claims he's a different man. The goat, now perched on a stool wearing a flower crown, simply bleats. The crowd watches like it's theatre. Someone writes a ballad on the spot. A woman with green hair and a tattoo of a flaming duck on her arm reads palms. "You will fall in love tonight," she tells a blushing cobbler. He laughs. "How can you be sure?" She points behind him. A man dressed as a wizard is winking. He turns. Their eyes meet. The duck tattoo glows. Magic? Maybe? Someone begins a group dance. It involves clapping, spinning, and sitting down aggressively. No one understands the rules. That doesn't stop 30 people from joining. A lute is broken. A boot is flung. A tooth is found. Still the clapping continues. Above it all, a cat walks along the rafters. watching with disdain. Someone swears it meows amateurs. In the aftermath of romance, there are 11 rejections, 3 slap fights, 1 unexpected engagement, 2 goats reunite, and a very confused priest who keeps accidentally blessing flirtations as marriages. You sit back, your mug mostly full, your seat only slightly on fire, and your heart unexpectedly warm. Romance here doesn't bloom, it bursts, it collides, it trips over itself and lands in a stranger's lap. It's messy, unpredictable, and often smells faintly of garlic. But it's real, honest, loud. And just when you think the night has reached its romantic peak, someone stands too fast. A chair screeches, a voice snarls, a slurred, "You looking at her?" cuts the air. Just when things seem to calm down, just when the room has settled into a romantic stupor of slurred poetry, badly aimed winks and second-hand stew breath, someone crosses the line. It could be anything. A hand held too long. A gaze held longer. A laugh that was just 1 second too loud at the wrong time, near the wrong man. And then, from across the room, a voice snarls like a wounded boar through ale foam. "She laughed at him, not with him." Every head turns, even the bard pauses mid-lute twang. A spoon falls to the floor. The goat stops chewing and blinks. Danger has arrived. "That's my cousin!" someone yells, possibly in defense, possibly as a challenge. But it's too late to clarify. Jealousy has already kicked the door in and overturned the chairs. A mug is hurled. It spins majestic and angry before shattering near the hearth and soaking someone's boot in lukewarm ale. A woman gasps. A man roars. And just like that, the tavern explodes into movement. Tables that had just been rebalanced are flipped like pancakes on festival day. Someone uses a stool as a shield. Someone else screams "duck" and is promptly hit with a duck. Where the duck came from is unclear. Why it's here now is a mystery for another time. 2 men wrestle over a misunderstanding involving eye contact and a shared love of goat cheese. A third joins simply because he hates goat cheese and sees a chance to finally express that. In the center of it all, a man attempts to hide under a bench, claiming neutrality, only to be yanked out by his ankles and accused of both theft and cowardice. "I was just tying my shoe," he shouts. He's not wearing shoes. Over by the bar, a woman jabs a fork at a man's tunic while shouting, "This stew wasn't even yours." The man responds by emptying said stew onto her boots. Both then slip, land on a third party, and roll beneath a table. It's unclear if they're fighting or flirting now. The line is very thin in this tavern. Meanwhile, 2 bards are in the middle of what historians will later call the spoon duel of Elderglen. Each holds a battered tavern spoon like a sword. "You stole my verse," one cries. "It rhymed fire with desire." "It also rhymed ale with betrayal," retorts the other, jabbing forward. The crowd gives them space. Spoon fencing is an ancient art, after all. A man stands on a stool and tries to declare peace by shouting a love poem. He gets to the second verse before a cabbage smashes into his face with a wet thwap. He goes down. The stool survives. The poem does not. A stray chicken, possibly the same one from earlier, possibly a new one entirely, takes flight. It flutters in terror, circles the room, and lands in someone's stew bowl, launching turnips like artillery. Someone catches one, someone else eats it mid-flight. They are declared the hero of the night, albeit briefly. In the corner, the infamous goat returns to the spotlight, adorned in a makeshift wreath made from spilled salad. It jumps on a bench, bleats with fury, and headbutts a man attempting to steal bread. The tavern roars in approval. The goat, now unofficially the referee of the fight, is fed beer-soaked hay. A cloaked figure tries to use the chaos to sneak off with a full loaf of bread and someone's boots. Unfortunately, the boots are still occupied. A scuffle ensues. The bread is reclaimed. The boots are not. A milkmaid, normally shy, is now swinging a ladle like a war axe, shouting, "This is for stealing my bucket!" The accused, a stable boy with fear in his eyes, dodges once, twice, then slips on gravy and accepts his fate. Meanwhile, the tavern keeper, bless their broken patience, wades into the fray, wielding a broom in one hand and a ladle in the other, like a god of service and fury. "Out or down!" they bellow again. This time, the room listens, slightly. One person is escorted out by their ear, another by their tunic. A third tries to hide in a barrel and is rolled toward the door like a cask of disappointment. A dwarf swings from the rafters, screaming, "Long live the Queen!" before landing in a stew pot. He emerges, scalded but proud. A pair of monks engage in a theological debate that turns physical when one calls the other's interpretation of virtue emotionally limp. Books are thrown. Someone is smacked with a sandal. A nearby cleric takes notes for future sermons. At the card table, accusations of cheating fly like arrows. A stack of copper is upended. A rogue appears, collects it, and disappears through the floorboards with a wink. Everyone claps. No one knows who he was. Back at the fire, the bard returns, battered and missing a shoe. He strums what's left of his lute and sings, "Oh, the tavern burned not with flame, but fists and stew and loss of name." She kissed a goat, he kissed a wall. Near the door, a man fights another man who he believes stole his identity. "I'm Gregory! No, I'm Gregory!" They look nothing alike, but both are wearing the same hat. The hat is blamed. The hat is arrested. The fight continues. Another person insists the entire fight is performance art. "Observe the rawness of human passion," she shouts while being hurled across the room by a man who thinks she insulted his mother. She lands in a pie, declares it meaningful. The crowd is divided. Suddenly someone opens a window. Wind rushes in. Candles flicker. The chicken panics again and flies into a tankard. Ale is spilled. Tension snaps. Someone screams, "For the love of the ferret," and swings a mop. It hits a chandelier. The chandelier swings. A man yells, "I can see my house from here," and leaps. No one knows why. He is not seen again. The violence fades into groaning, grumbling, grunting apologies. Someone wipes stew from their hair. Someone else wipes hair from their stew. The tavern keeper stands in the center, steaming with exhaustion. Their ladle is bent. Their broom is broken. Their eyes scan the wreckage of benches, spilled stew, and one suspiciously smug goat. They sigh. "Fine," they say, "but no more fighting until breakfast." Someone tries to protest. They're met with the handle of a mop. They reconsider. A bard hums a tune. Someone limps to a bench. Two people lean on each other, bruised and breathless, giggling for no reason. The goat curls up near the hearth, king of this absurd kingdom. And just like that, the tavern returns to peace. Not silence. Never silence. There's still snoring, and someone's arguing with a wall, but it's peaceful chaos, the kind that says, "You've earned your bruises, you've won your war. You've danced the stupid, beautiful dance of medieval madness. And now, it's time to sleep. You wake up to the sound of someone coughing, someone groaning, and something softly clucking. Your eyes creak open like the tavern door last night, slow, resistant, and vaguely sticky. The ceiling above you is wooden, warped, and watching. You are alive. Probably. Your back hurts, your head hums, your mouth tastes like stew and betrayal. A chicken is standing on your chest, staring deep into your soul. You don't question it. You've seen worse. You try to blink. The chicken does not. It wins the stare down. Around you, the tavern lies in the sacred hush of post-battle hangover. It's like a battlefield. If the battlefield had more ale, more feathers, and someone softly humming what might be a love song or a death chant. Bodies lie scattered across the floor, some under blankets, some under furniture, some just curled around half-eaten loaves of bread like they died protecting them. A bard is snoring in a fireplace, nose flaring with every exhale. His instrument, once proud, now limp and stringless, rests beside him like a fallen comrade. Ashes dust his hat. He smiles in his sleep, possibly dreaming of spoons. Two strangers spoon for warmth. Neither looks happy about it. One is using the other's leg as a pillow. The other is using a tankard as a pillow. Both are wrong. A woman in full armor snores atop a table, one boot missing, one gauntlet filled with gravy. A candle has melted onto her helmet. She wears it like a badge of honor. A man nearby has his face glued to the wood with what might be ale or syrup or something unspeakable. He doesn't try to get up. He doesn't need to. This is his home now. The air is thick, sweat, smoke, spilt mead, and the unmistakable scent of wet cabbage and floor straw. Someone sneezes in the distance. Someone else moans like a ghost filled with regret. And there, in the center of it all, the tavern keeper stands, already sweeping, already swearing, a storm of sighs and straw and soft muttering. They're reheating something over the hearth, a thick sludge of pottage that smells like onions, feet, and thyme. Could be breakfast, could be last night's dinner's cousin, could be a potion, could be revenge. You don't ask, you don't want to know. The rules of the morning are clear. Eat what's hot, drink what's wet, and don't ask what touched your blanket. If you're lucky, you have a blanket. If you're luckier, it doesn't smell like pickled fish and heartbreak. If you're truly blessed, your blanket hasn't been chewed on by the goat. You try to sit up. Your spine cracks like firewood. You lie back down. The chicken clucks gently. Encouragement? Mockery? Hard to tell. It hops down and struts off toward a bowl of something that looks suspiciously alive. Someone next to you groans. It's not a word, just a vowel, possibly ancient and sacred. You groan back, out of politeness. It's the language of the ruined. Another man checks his pouch and mutters, "I had 2 coins and a prayer." He now has half a prayer and someone else's sock. He examines it, nods, accepts his new life. A woman wakes, sniffs, then carefully removes a spoon from her boot. She does not remember putting it there. She places it respectfully on a table and moves on. The tavern slowly groans to life. Not with joy, with resignation. Someone stretches and falls off a bench. Someone else discovers they were using a lute as a pillow and now have musical notes etched into their cheek. The floor is littered with mugs, crumbs, feathers, and one very confused rat who's taken up residence inside a helmet. It blinks at you. You blink back. It disappears into the straw, possibly to write a memoir. There is no breakfast menu, There is only whatever survived the night. The stew is reheated, now thicker than before, and possibly aware of its surroundings. The bread is bendable, which is either a feat of engineering or a cry for help. The ale is watery, might be small beer, might be leftover mead, scraped from under the table and mixed with rain. You drink anyway. It stings, then comforts, like bad advice from a charming friend. Someone asks for eggs, the tavern keeper just laughs. Someone else asks for juice and is met with silence so dense it gains mass. By the window, a man retells a story from the night before. In this version, he won the fight, seduced the barmaid, and found his long-lost goat. In reality, he lost his boots, his belt, and possibly his name. But no one corrects him. It's too early for truth. Lies are softer in the morning. Outside, the world returns. Hooves clop past. A bell rings. Someone hawks something unidentifiable. The smell of chimney smoke blends with the stink of boiled turnips and tavern sweat. Inside, it's slower, warmer, sadder. You gather your things, a boot, a cloak, a cup that isn't yours, a turnip that might be sentient. You sniff it. It blinks. You put it back. A woman across the room waves. You're not sure if you kissed her, danced with her, or fought her last night. Possibly all three. She nods. You nod back. It's the medieval equivalent of good luck out there. The tavern keeper eyes you as you approach the door. Not with judgment. Just recognition. The kind of look that says, you made it. You survived. You're part of the fabric now. Welcome to the fellowship of the barely alive but still standing. Behind you, someone sneezes so hard they fall over. Someone else breaks a mug just by looking at it. The fire pops. The goat bleats. The bard hums. Not because you feel good, you don't. Your bones ache. Your teeth feel fuzzy. You're wearing someone else's glove, and your breath could curdle milk. But you've lived. You've danced. You've flirted and fought and survived a spoon duel and possibly married a chicken. You're part of something ridiculous and real. A tapestry woven in ale, ash, and song. You reach for the door. It creaks like your knees. A shaft of light blinds you. Birds chirp. Somewhere, someone is already shouting. You step out into the world. The tavern accepts you once more. You sit, you sip, you sigh, and maybe, just maybe, you find your other sock. Before you leave, before you limp out into the chilly morning with a crust of bread in your pocket and someone else's chicken following you like a very judgmental dog, the medieval tavern behind you leans slightly to the left. It always did. It creaks like old bones, sighs like an overworked monk, and smells like stew, sweat, wood smoke, and at least 3 unwashed regrets. Its door hangs off its hinges, and the window shutters flap in the wind like startled pigeons. A goat peers out from the top window, wearing a hat it did not purchase. And yet, it matters more than most castles. This wasn't just a place where you got drunk and caught fleas and maybe married a spoon fighter by accident. It was the heart of the village, the lungs, the spleen. It pumped life through crooked alleys and overtaxed fields. It was the hearth when your house was cold, the bench when your bed was full, the noise when your silence got too loud. It was your church, your courthouse, your comedy club, your coliseum. And occasionally it was just a really good place to watch a man try to eat a whole onion while blindfolded. In a world where most of life was toil and trouble, endless fields, aching backs, unjust lords, tax collectors who smelled like mildew and shame, the tavern was the release valve. It was the reset button. You could walk through that door carrying your sorrows like sacks of spoiled turnips, and for a few hours just be. You could laugh there. Loud, ugly, snorting laughter that echoed off the rafters and scared the rats. You could sing, even if your voice sounded like a toad in a bucket. You could dance, even if you had one good leg and half a rhythm. You could arm wrestle your sworn enemy, lose, and still buy him a drink after. You could confess a secret to a stranger or propose marriage to a barmaid you mistook for your cousin. You could lose a boot, a bet, or a tooth. You could fall asleep on straw and wake up with a chicken on your chest and a poem in your sock. And yes, you could get hurt there, bruised, betrayed, slightly on fire. But you were never alone. The tavern was also the bulletin board of the pre-print world. No parchment, no ink, just shouted stories over mugs and spilled stew. You didn't need to ask what was happening in town. You just had to sit near the bar and listen. Wagers were made here, secrets spilled like overfilled ale. Affairs began and ended at this table, next to that stool, behind those barrels. Spouses met here. Enemies forged grudges over stew. Lives changed. A man once swore he saw a vision of the divine in a puddle of spilled beer. He wept. The beer was mopped. Life moved on. This was the place where status took a holiday. A knight could drink beside a tanner. A baron could be mocked by a shepherd, and a beggar could win a singing contest judged by a one-eyed chicken and a man who claimed to be a prince in exile. The floor didn't care who you were. It was equally hard and equally sticky to all. Even the smells were democratic. Ale, mud, smoke, sweat, a hint of cabbage, a whisper of disappointment. They came together into something powerful, something ancient, something honest, because the medieval tavern was unfiltered humanity. It was where you saw people raw, not painted in the colours of duty or rank or debt, but slumped, laughing, bleeding, loving. People told stories that were mostly lies and sang songs that were mostly out of tune. And somehow, in the mess of all of it, there was truth. That truth said, "You are not alone in this mess of a life." And that mattered more than anything. You had warmth. And stew. Questionable stew, yes. Stew that may have included unknown meat, wilted turnips, and once, definitely, a button. But it was yours. So pause. Just one more second. Let the door swing closed behind you. Feel the cold slip into your bones. Hear the goat bleat from the roof. Watch the chimney belch one last puff of black smoke, like a tired dragon sighing in its sleep. This place, this crooked, leaking, chaotic miracle, mattered. It held the moments between the big ones, the quiet between the storms, the laughter between the funerals. And the love, oh gods, the strange, dumb, wonderful love. The bread-throwing courtships, the whispered poems about cheese, the wink that knocked over a tankard and started a marriage, the slap that ended one, the drunken proposal shouted from a window, the answer shouted back, the applause from everyone in the street. This was where you flirted, fought, failed, fell asleep in someone's stew and woke up in someone else's blanket. This was where you became part of something bigger than yourself, something silly and sacred and slightly sticky. The spoon duel? Legendary. The goat dispute? Ongoing. The chicken? Still watching. It wasn't clean, it wasn't safe. It smelled like burnt onions and regrets, but it was real. And in a world where so much was dirt and duty and disease, that was enough. And know this, you carry it with you, not just in your memory, but in your bones, in the way your knees creak like those old wooden stairs, in the way you flinch at loud laughter, expecting flying bread, in the way you sometimes hum a drunk's tune without knowing why. It clings to you like smoke in your cloak, like stew in your hair, like that faint smell of pickled onions that will never quite leave your boots. You take it with you into the world, into fields and forests and towns that don't know what they're missing. Because the tavern changed you, not in some grand heroic way. You didn't leave with a sword of destiny or the secret to eternal life. You left with a limp, a story, and a button you still don't remember picking up. But you are different. You know what it means to belong, to be part of something messy and stupid and perfect. You've laughed with strangers, shared stew with enemies, kissed someone whose name you never asked, danced with someone you couldn't forget. So when the road gets long, when the days are dull and the nights are colder than they should be, reach for that memory. Let it warm you. Let it carry you. Let it remind you who you are. You are a tavern survivor. And that's no small thing. You'll be walking someday down a path you've never seen, toward a village that hasn't been built yet, under a sky that smells like rain and old stories, and you'll hear something, a clang of a mug, a slurred tune hummed just off key, the unmistakable whisper of someone falling off a stool. And you'll know. The same laughter that dares the night to end. The same fire that burns unevenly but doesn't go out. A lute strumming the wrong chord. A barmaid rolling her eyes, a man making friends with a rat, a goat on a bench, a chicken, oh the chicken, eyeing everyone like it's in charge of the afterlife. You'll find your seat. It might already have your name carved into it. You'll raise your mug. Someone will raise theirs in return. And you'll know that whatever this place is, however far it is from where you started, it's home. Because home isn't just walls and roof and floor. It's laughter echoed from your past. It's stew that tastes like memory. It's a chair that feels like a throne when you've had enough to drink. You don't need directions. You don't need gold. You don't need permission. You just need to walk forward, find the door, and trust that the tavern will always be there, just waiting for you to come back. We'll keep the fire going. And yes, the chicken remembers. The brawl has ended again. The air is thick with smoke, sweat, and the unholy aroma of spilled ale, body odour, burnt stew, and maybe just a hint of regret. The hearth crackles with disinterest. A lute twangs with only 3 strings. Someone coughs loudly, and for one long, confused moment, there is peace. But then, like an unexpected second course after a questionable feast, romance. Welcome to medieval flirting, a time-honoured tradition full of bold gestures, terrible metaphors, and approximately 0 shame. Where dignity comes to die and love sometimes follows behind it, hobbling on one shoe. It starts slowly, like a rash you don't want to admit to. A woman wipes stew off a man's cheek with the sleeve of his own tunic. He takes it as a sign. "My lady," he slurs, "your eyes shine like oiled armour at dawn." She replies with a deadpan look and a spoonful of stew to his face. The room laughs. He bows anyway. Dignity optional. Elsewhere, a wiry farmer tries to impress a barmaid by juggling pickles. He makes it to 2.5 before slipping on a sausage and knocking over an entire table. The barmaid claps. Is it love? Maybe. Or maybe she just enjoys chaos. At a nearby bench, a young lad with too much cologne, goat musk, and not enough sense pulls out a piece of parchment. It's a poem. It rhymes heart with fart. He calls it his masterpiece. The woman he reads it to bursts into such wild laughter that two others fall in love with her immediately. She now has options. Romance in the medieval tavern doesn't follow rules. It follows impulses and poor judgment. A blacksmith, muscles glistening with soot and ale, leans into a conversation with a scribe. "Ever been kissed by someone who can bend iron?" he asks. "Ever been rejected by someone who can read?" she counters, sipping wine and not looking up. He blushes. She smirks. A second later, they're sharing bread. It's unclear who won, but both seem pleased. Nearby, a man boasts about owning not just goats, but named goats. "Buttercup and Lady Cluck," he declares proudly. "Lady Cluck is a chicken," his companion corrects. "It's aspirational," he insists. Everywhere you turn, something romantic or ridiculous is unfolding. One couple attempts to dance. There's no music, they hum. She leads, he trips. They fall into a barrel. They do not get out. A curtain is drawn around them using someone's cloak and a broom. Privacy medieval style. In the far corner, a group of friends tries to coach their most awkward companion into speaking to a woman. He finally approaches, clears his throat and says, "Greetings, fair creature." The woman blinks. "Did you just call me a creature?" she asks. He panics and adds, "A divine one?" She eyes him, then offers him a seat. He sits on a lit candle. She giggles. He winces, and somehow it begins. Not all attempts are gentle. A knight with one eyebrow and no indoor voice roars across the room. "I love you, milady!" The recipient of his affection is, unfortunately, the tavern keeper's daughter. She responds by flipping a tankard directly into his mouth. He considers this progress. Jealousy simmers like bad soup on a low fire. A bard recently rejected watches with narrowed eyes as his object of affection laughs with a new suitor. He strums his lute bitterly. The tune is "Love is a battlefield," but slower and sadder. He whispers, "This song is cursed," then plays it again. 3 tankards break in response. In one booth, a cloaked figure flirts with shadowy mystery. "I am a spy," he tells a wide-eyed milkmaid. "I deal in secrets and seduction." He's promptly outed by his cousin, who shouts from across the room, "You sell worms at the market, Darrell." The milkmaid nods. "I do like worms," she says. And somehow they too become a couple. There's a trio of dwarves placing bets on who will kiss who first. One holds a ledger. One holds a ladle as a scepter of judgment. The third just eats pickled eggs and says, "I believe in true love." A woman in golden robes draws attention wherever she walks. Not because of her beauty, though she is striking, but because she carries a falcon on her shoulder that shrieks every time someone lies. She's approached by 5 men. 4 flee after the falcon screams. The 5th? He tells no lies. They walk off arm in arm, falcon still judging. Elsewhere, someone shouts, "I will serenade you with the song of my people." He then blows into a mug and makes a noise like a wounded goose. The woman applauds. They are married within the hour, or drunk, possibly both. 2 people, 1 goat, many memories. He insists it was a gift of eternal affection. She insists it died choking on his sock. He claims that was a different goat. She claims he's a different man. The goat, now perched on a stool wearing a flower crown, simply bleats. The crowd watches like it's theatre. Someone writes a ballad on the spot. A woman with green hair and a tattoo of a flaming duck on her arm reads palms. "You will fall in love tonight," she tells a blushing cobbler. He laughs. "How can you be sure?" She points behind him. A man dressed as a wizard is winking. He turns. Their eyes meet. The duck tattoo glows. Magic? Maybe? Someone begins a group dance. It involves clapping, spinning, and sitting down aggressively. No one understands the rules. That doesn't stop 30 people from joining. A lute is broken, a boot is flung, a tooth is found. Still the clapping continues. Above it all, a cat walks along the rafters, watching with disdain. Someone swears it meows amateurs. In the aftermath of romance, there are 11 rejections, 3 slap fights, 1 unexpected engagement, 2 goats reunite, and a very confused priest who keeps accidentally blessing flirtations as marriages. You sit back, your mug mostly full, your seat only slightly on fire, and your heart unexpectedly warm. Romance here doesn't bloom. It bursts, it collides, it trips over itself and lands in a stranger's lap. It's messy, unpredictable, and often smells faintly of garlic. But it's real, honest, loud. And just when you think the night has reached its romantic peak, someone stands too fast. A chair screeches, a voice snarls, a slurred, "You looking at her?" cuts the air. Meanwhile, the tavern keeper, bless their broken patience, wades into the fray, wielding a broom in one hand and a ladle in the other, like a god of service and fury. "Out or down!" they bellow again. This time, the room listens, slightly. One person is escorted out by their ear, another by their tunic. A third tries to hide in a barrel and is rolled toward the door like a cask of disappointment. "You are still here, my friend? I can't believe it. This didn't help you fall asleep? Well, I will try harder in the next one to achieve that. You deserve a gold star. You are a trooper. Type gold star in the comments below, and we'll know you made it to the end. I'm sure not many did. Good night, my friend, and thanks again for tuning in.